I'm Andrew Mallory, veteran of Her Majesty's Military, African Photographic Safari Guide and Adventure Host.
And I'm Don McCoy, expert in green real estate trends and the new green culture. And we are on a quest.
If it's affecting our economy and is green, then you know we're going to find out all about it. After all, I am the Dean of Green.
Wait a minute, I thought I was.
No, Don, it's me.
Well then fine, I'll be the Green Crusader.
We're constantly hearing about solar energy. Wherever we go, that name seems to come out. I'm here with Ron, who's the president of Solar Oregon at a convention. And I really want to find out, Ron, how you get your message out there and really what is your objective here?
Well, we're at Solar Now University, and Solar Now University is a specific opportunity for organizations like Solar Oregon, the Oregon Department of Energy, the Energy Trust of Oregon, and the City of Portland. We've combined our resources and we're educating communities on how to go solar. Small communities. We started this in 2007 as an idea. This is our 4th annual conference. We started in Pendleton, Oregon, not a big place. What we did there made the New York Times. Cowboy Town goes solar. And we went to Roseburg, Oregon the year after that, not a big place. We were in Bend, Oregon last year. This year we're in Coos Bay, Oregon here at the Mill Casino. We are trying to educate those people in the communities how you can implement something as technologically difficult as solar is for most people to understand.
And how complicated? So I'm living in a rural community with my family, and I want to get off the grid, and I want to bring in power. Okay. I saw you. I know that off the grid. It's a big issue. I know you'll never get off the grid.
No.
It's close.
I know a lot of people who have. Actually, in the late 70s, when I lived in Santa Barbara, my first solar implementation was off the grid. A bunch of hippies living up in the mountains wanted to go solar. When we started this in 2007, it was fairly expensive for a family, let's say, to have solar. Whether you're on grid or off grid, didn't matter. The product costs were high, the permitting was high, the engineering was expensive. Most cities didn't even know how to zone it, or insurance company didn't know how to underwrite it. Property people didn't know how to assess it. All that's been solved. In America, literally, in the last 5 years, really, most of those issues have been solved. The hard cost, the cost of the product itself has dropped tremendously. 60% drop in the last year alone.
But
so it's becoming affordable.
A 3-bedroom house, you know, 1,500, 1,700 square feet. I want to implement this solar, take advantage of it, reduce my monthly outgoings in terms of energy, also be, you know, environmentally conscious. How much is this check I'm going to have to be writing?
Okay,
is it tens of thousands of dollars, or is it really affordable?
Well, it used to be tens of thousands of dollars,
I know.
And now it's affordable. And I say that a little tongue-in-cheek because it depends on how you want to purchase it. 70%, and I'm not saying this is in Oregon, but across the United States, 70% of the people who are buying solar now are not buying it. They're leasing it. So there's no out-of-pocket cost for them. They actually have a reduction in their energy cost from the utility company, and they pay a third-party person who they're leasing from that other section of pay, but it's still less than what they were paying before.
So there's still a saving, even if you're leasing it?
There's a saving, but I want to answer your question a little bit differently.
Okay.
It's not how much you spend, and it's not what you put on your roof. It's what is your demand? What is your behavior? What kind of a user are you? You got teenagers in the house, your energy costs are going to be high or higher. If you have 2 people living in a small house, the answer to your question is you need half as much as somebody else like me who has children in the house. So it's not an easy answer. It's not the problem with solar is it's not a one solution solves all your problems, because frankly, the behavior and the demand issues that Americans need to grapple with is within ourselves. And that's what Solar Oregon tries to educate people. We try to model behavior on how you as a user of the energy should be able to use your energy.
So you're coming from a completely different place. You're educating the consumer of energy.
That's right.
How to more efficiently manage that resource.
Right.
Brilliant.
And by the way, we tie it into energy efficiency because it doesn't make any sense to put a relatively expensive solar panel on your house.
If it's not being used.
Well, you're losing all that resource that you're developing. It's just going out. If you've got windows that leak and doors that leak power, and you're creating power from your roof, you're just wasting that energy. So it's a zero loss. or zero-sum gain, I should say. And it's just a loss to you. So energy efficiency is number one. Do that first, and then look at creating your own power. And that power is power. In other words, distributed power that you create on your own roof is a power that a lot of people want to have, whether it's on-grid or off-grid. Off-gridders are more conscious of that. They want to create their own power, they don't want to share it with anybody, and they certainly don't want to pay somebody else for it.
Well, what's the future for Solar Oregon?
That's a good question. I told the folks at the meet and greet last night that my plan is to try to put Solar Oregon out of business I don't want to be 35 years from now talking about changing our behavior and selling solar. At that point, I believe that Solar Oregon needs to be successful in our message that we can do better. We don't need a fossil-based or a carbon-based energy system, that we can manage our own power. Once we've got that message across and the economies of scale are such that lay people can afford it, you don't have to be rich to own it, then we're kind of putting ourselves out of business, I thought. And then I started to learn about things like the built environment. Solar windows are the next thing. 5 years from now, we're all going to have solar windows, or we should. And then what's the next solar thing? Solar technology is changing to the point now where this vest might be solar powered. You could plug your stuff right into your vest because you're generating power from the light that we're sitting in front of.
So there's a very bright, long
very bright future as the technology changes, as the economies of scale make it more affordable to the lay people, which is where we're headed. I don't know if I'll ever be able to put Solar Oregon out of business because I think there's a lot of education and a lot of technology to continue. It's just, what's the next thing? Going from solar panels to your car, to your bicycle, to your clothes, to your boat, your RV, whatever.
How have you found the success of this conference?
Well, the first 3 conferences we had were like planting little seeds in the communities and then watching them grow. So last year, for example, I think we had 12 or 13 solarized projects across Oregon. I mean, in communities as diverse as the metro area of Portland, where we did one in Clackamas or Hillsboro or Gresham, to places as remote as Union City or Baker City out in the east part of the state.
So this conference has done very well.
Yeah, it's done very well because you have people from those communities attending and learning how to do it. Okay. We're teaching them to fish, and then they're saying, okay, now I can do this on my own. We give them show them how to do it. We give them the resources they need to do it. We introduce them. We connect them to the people that know how to do it and show them how to do it. And it's, again, we're modeling that behavior, and then they take it and go from there. Great. And these cities have been very successful in the last couple of years doing that.
Thanks, Ron. That's fascinating information. And I need you to know something. People like Ron do what they do as a passion. A lot of people involved in the green community, and I know Don will bear me out on this, have volunteered enormous amounts of their time purely because they're involved in this as a passion. And I think that's important that people know that.
As we learned in our first Green Economy episode on solar, there are several types of solar, with photovoltaic being the most commonly used. SolarWorld is a company with roots in Germany that produce a lot of photovoltaic solar panels. Located in Hillsboro, Oregon, their 750,000 square foot manufacturing facility is leading the charge. That's energy humor, in case you didn't catch it, in planning for a future that includes a lot of solar.
So in the United States, SolarWorld goes back to 1975. That means we've been producing solar panels and putting them out in the field to generate electricity for more than 35 years. We are the largest producer in the Western Hemisphere, and therefore we're showing the way for how this economy can have energy independence and provide consumers with power sources that are as cheap or cheaper than conventional fossil fuels. And as such, we see our share of the energy business growing steadily over time.
We're at the SolarWorld's largest plant in the Americas, and we are the largest solar panel producer in the world outside of China. And we are in one of our plants. There are 4 factory steps to make a solar panel. One is the step of growing crystal, silicon crystal. The second is cutting the crystal into wafers. The third is turning those wafers into photovoltaic cells, so they're kind of like miniature power plants. And the fourth step is assembling those cells into panels. This is the cell manufacturing step where the blank silicon wafers become photovoltaic cells. And right here, the silicon wafers are coming in. They're being checked for any problems before they enter their first step, which is kind of like a bath or a wet bench step where they're cleaned. So what we do is basically create a diode. We turn a silicon wafer into a diode, which is a mechanism of two opposing electronic characteristics. The way we do that is when we're forming the crystal of the silicon, we add a dopant or impurity. In our case, we use boron, which is an element. And that causes a positive latent electronic characteristic. Later in the process, in this step in the cell factory, we put another layer of phosphorus on one of the sides of the silicon wafer. That creates a negative electronic characteristic. The two sides, which are opposed to each other, pose a tension, electronic tension. And it's that mechanism that we use to use energy from the sun to create an exchange of electrons and therefore a flow of electricity. Okay, so here we are at the end of the cell production line. And so we have completed photovoltaic cells, which are the work units of a finished solar panel. And this is a freshly minted photovoltaic cell. You can see that it now has the blue-purple coating. It's anti-reflective coating so that it'll absorb as much photons from the sun as possible. Photons are packets of light energy. And it also has the circuits and bus bars, which are the highways and byways of the electrical flow. At this point, it's very, very thin and fragile. It's only less than 200 microns, which is less than a fifth of a millimeter, if you can imagine it. At this point, they're kind of fragile. They would break easily and shatter. But once put in between glass and a frame, you could drive a truck on the solar panel and it would not break. And we have done that.
Okay, Rob, what's the significance of the Oregon Department of Energy overall in alternative energy in Oregon?
Well, the Oregon Department of Energy strives to reduce the long-term cost of energy for Oregonians, and Oregon's not parked on a giant coal seam or a vast, natural gas reserve, so renewable energy is one thing that we have in abundance, and therefore it's a natural part of our energy future.
And then what significant role does the Department of Energy play in residential?
Well, for residential, we've had a long-running residential energy tax credit program that helps provide financial support for homeowners to invest in renewable energy technologies, such as solar.
Here's the thing, Oregon gets a lot of rain and clouds. Does solar really work in Oregon?
That's a question I get a lot, and the answer is a definitive yes. Even in Astoria, it's possible to collect enough sun off of a typical residential roof to cover 100% of your electricity needs. If you're heating with electricity, you may not make 100%, but you might make 30 or 40 or 50% of the energy right off your own roof.
So what incentive levels do people have today to still go solar? Because it's pretty expensive, isn't it?
The upfront cost is still higher than conventional energy sources, although there's a number of incentives that are available to consumers, including a residential energy tax credit with the state for a residential PV system, which is solar electricity on your roof. You get up to a $6,000 tax credit from the state.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any federal?
There's a 30% federal tax credit, which is based on 30% of the cost of the system to the homeowner in the form of a tax credit.
Okay, so what that means is somebody goes ahead and affords to put solar on their house, and then the installer, processes the paperwork, and you get a 30% tax credit on the federal level off your income taxes?
Correct, yeah, and it's a true tax credit. It's not a deduction, so it's like cash. We've got a great group of installers in Oregon. They will help you with all of the paperwork to get the federal and state incentives.
So the state or the federal doesn't actually send you a check?
If you have a rebate due to you at the end of the year on your taxes, then it increases your rebate check.
I guess the biggest significance, though, is that people are getting a little bit more independent and off the grid. Is that the idea?
Yeah, folks like to take control of their own energy futures. We're seeing about 1,500 residential installations per year, and that number keeps growing every year.
What's the future hold for the Oregon Department of Energy?
Well, I think that we're going to continue to support these technologies. We'll continue to learn from the contractors that are installing them, and over time, the idea is that the incentives reduce as the system costs reduce. And so we would like to actually become obsolete in the future when the renewable energy resources can compete with conventional energy resources.
So Andrew, why do we have these hats on?
We have these hats on because it's fun. Remember, we've been helicopter pilots, we've been cowboys, now it's our chance to be firemen, Don.
I like it. We're back here again at the Coos Bay Fire Station, ending our wonderful show.
And I have to say, for anyone out there that really wants to have a look at solar energy in a rural or outlying area, this is a brilliant example of what they're doing right.
Coos Bay by the Sea with Rob Del Mar. Del Mar is Spanish for the sea.
You guys are right. I was rolling on that. That will go in there. Del Mar is French. Oh. Rolling.
Coos Bay by the Sea with Rob Del Mar.
If it was Del Mar, it would be French for the sea.
Del Mar is Spanish.
You guys are right. I was rolling on that. So
You were rolling on
that will go in there at the end. Del Mar is French for well, Del Mar.